7 a.m., and it's now time for the morning watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, the Israel-Iran conflict, issues and implications. And in the second watch, is opposition still a useful description for the other political parties? For our social media question, we ask, what would be a more useful word than opposition for the political party not in power? We're asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I quote.
All right, today's I quote says, "If you've never tried blindfold archery, you don't know what you're missing."
Good morning, Joka.
Good morning.
How you doing, my brother?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I realized that you realized what took place yesterday.
Oh, yes, man.
It was something else, I gather.
The first time that happened, a water tank blew off my roof.
Yeah?
And hit my car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
Nothing close to that yesterday happened in terms of your...
No. All right, nothing about the roof, but
Yeah.
it was still a lot of breeze.
Yeah,
So,
it was something else, I gather.
Wear your mask today, people. Outside is dusty.
Yes. The first watch after this break.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Don't let freshness ditch you when you need it the most. Wash your clothes with Downy Softener to keep dazzling everyone around you from day to night. Try Downy Softener now.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now on Friday, June 13, social and mainstream media sources lit up with the breaking news headlines such as Israel has launched a preemptive strike on Iran and the nuclear sites in Iran are being attacked right now. So, what are the main issues and implications associated with this elevated conflict in the Middle East? Well, to answer these and other related questions, we have joining us Ambassador Curtis Ward. He's the former ambassador of Jamaica to the United Nations and international consultant on geopolitical and security issues. We also have the Reverend Everett Edwards, pastor of the Twickenham Park Church of the Open Bible, and he's also a social commentator. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir, and to your listeners.
Great. Good to have you
Morning,
with us.
award.
Yes. Well, gentlemen, what's your understanding of the reason or reasons for the elevated conflict between Israel and Iran? Beginning with you, Ambassador Ward.
Well, this is not a new issue.
Hmm.
Several decades now, Iran has been developing its capability to create nuclear weapons. Iran has also repeatedly stated, well, I shouldn't say Iran, the leaders of Iran have stated that one of their main objectives is the annihilation of Israel.
Hmm.
In the meantime, the United States has had a very rocky relationship with Iran since the 79 hostage taking at the US Embassy compound in Tehran. But at the same time, US presidents have found ways to reach accommodation with Iran, and the United Nations had an agreement with Iran for the International Energy Atomic Agency
Hmm.
to inspect Iran's nuclear facilities to ensure that what Iran was doing was for domestic purposes like power generation and so on and so forth, and not for development of nuclear weapons. Well, to move forward quickly, at the same time, Iran did not abide strictly to those guidelines set out by the IAEA and the Non-Proliferation Treaty,
Hmm.
and, and has moved to enrich uranium and actually weapons grade uranium. In 2015, President Obama and the government of Iran, along with other international partners, the European Union, China, Russia, all agreed to what they call a Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, in which the IAEA would go in and supervise the destruction of the facilities that could make enriched uranium, and the enriched uranium would be shipped out of the country.
Yes.
This was the famous Iran nuclear deal. And it, by all indications, it was working. The centrifuges and the facilities that did enrich uranium were destroyed. They were actually, the process included filling these things with solid concrete. This was certified by the IAEA, and everything was going fine. But in 2017, President Trump said he would disband the Iran nuclear deal, which is the correct name is the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA. And by 2018,
You pulled out.
he pulled out completely.
Yeah,
Since,
stick up in right there if you don't mind, Ambassador, so I can bring in the Reverend Everell Edwards for his take on it, and then we'll get back to your views on the matter, Ambassador.
sure.
Reverend Edwards, what's your take in
Well,
terms of the reason or reasons behind this? Anything to add or subtract?
Israel says it feels intimidated, threatened by the plan of Iran to acquire the nuclear weapons.
Yes.
Iran maintains that it is not developing nuclear capabilities for weapons production, but for domestic power supply and general use. I think Israel finds itself in a situation where the proxies of Iran around it have been weakened in the last 2 or 3 years in terms of their ability to harass Israel militarily. And so it is seizing the opportunity now without the restraint of a less favorable American government. Now that they seem to think they have a closer bond, friendship with the Trump administration, with a weakened proxy enemy base around it. It thinks that this obviously is a good opportunity to strike at what they increasingly feel is a big threat to their
Yeah.
existence.
Yes.
And if you're aware of the danger your enemy poses and you are in a position to do something about eliminating that danger, it seems natural that you're going to take it. That is what I sense is unfolding
Yes.
as we speak.
Yes. Yes. And gentlemen, certainly there are those who would argue or are arguing that Iran is also a sovereign state as other nations in that region, and should have the right to develop its nuclear capabilities. What's your response to that, Ambassador?
Well, sovereignty does not give you the right to develop a capability to destroy a neighboring country.
America, Israel itself.
No, let me take this a little further.
Uh-huh.
It has been said for many, many years that Israel has nuclear weapons. I think very few on the international scene deny that. However, let's assume that Israel has nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
We have never heard any Israeli government, no matter how right-wing or how conservative, threaten to use nuclear weapons. And this is often what you expect from a democracy, and I want to use that term at this time in our history very cautiously. But Iran reminds me very much of what we see have developed in North Korea.
Right, right.
It was the same situation. Now, by any stretch of the imagination, North Korea is a global threat because of the type of undemocratic regime that controls the country. Now,
What about Russia, though, Ambassador? I'm sorry. What about Russia?
Russia will never use nuclear weapon.
What? We don't know. We don't know.
If you go back,
Hey, hold that thought, though, Ambassador. I think we're up on a break. I want to hear more on that. We'll be right back.
Have to be a man, got to be a man.
On the next episode of The Mailbox, we'll be doing our post-Father's Day show. Father's Day was a special day to honor and celebrate fathers, father figures, and paternal bonds. How did you show gratitude to fathers in your life? How can we continue to celebrate their role and spend quality time doing what they like beyond the Father's Day? You are invited to join the conversation with our guest pastor, Andrew Norman, co-founder, president of Passion and Purity, and Pastor Paul Morris, former missions and special projects coordinator of the New Testament Church of God in Jamaica. That's Wednesday, June 18 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station. Love 101. The Mailbox Monday.
Are you ready to make your business export ready? Register for the MSME Business Roadshow on June 18 from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Manning School, Westmoreland. Join the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce in collaboration with the Inter-American Development Bank to access MSME support, government incentives, and financing opportunities. Plus, win up to $400,000 in business cash grants. Register now for the MSME Business Roadshow at roadshow.miic.gov.jm. See you there.
Are you ready for something mega? Spend $6,500 or more before GCT. Drop your entry in the box and you can win a 2025 Hyundai Toussaint. It's the Mega Wheels Tour promotion. April 5th to September 28th. Second prize, a $50,000 shopping spree every month for a year. Third prize, a $30,000 shopping spree every month for a year. Brought to you by Hyundai, Red Stripe, Heineken, True Milk, Race, Walker's Wood, Downing, CPJ Daiquiri, and Carryburst. Juice Concentrate. Only at Megamart. Locations island-wide. Megamart. Best value by far. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Rating Gaming and Lotteries Act.
The Youth Summer Employment Program YSEP, an initiative of the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, will employ 10,000 youth this summer. YSEP is providing our youth with employment opportunities in critical areas associated with the ministry and its diverse portfolio entities. Join Love 101 FM for a live outside broadcast of the Youth Summer Employment Program launch on Tuesday, June 17 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Hear highlights on the benefits, purpose, and structure of YSEP from special guest speaker, Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness and Portfolio Minister, the Honorable Desmond McKenzie. That's a live broadcast on Tuesday, June 17, 2025 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. live from Jamaica Conference Center, Port Royal Street, downtown Kingston. The highlights will be on the family station, Love 101.
On the next Campus Connection, we will be taking another trip overseas for Jamaicans across the globe, Part 2. Jamaicans, both young and old, have made significant contributions to various fields, and their cultural influence continues to grow and inspire people worldwide. You are invited to join the conversation with Patrice Clayton, UWI graduate and public sector worker who was recently in Trinidad, Dr. Cedric Leslie, Columbus in Ohio, USA, and Daisha Mills, veterinarian student studying in Lithuania. You don't want to miss our honorable guest, Aberdeen Thompson Tucker, teacher in the UK. That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, June 17 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. We apologize for the extended break. In this, the first watch, we are looking on the Israel-Iran conflict. And in so doing, we have online the Reverend Everett Edwards, pastor of the Twickenham Park Church of the Open Bible and social commentator, as well as Ambassador Curtis Ward, former ambassador of Jamaica to United Nations and international consultant on geopolitical and security issues. Before the break, Ambassador Ward, you're responding to the question or concerns that some people have in regards to the sovereignty of Iran and its right to have its nuclear facilities developed.
Yes, and I made a statement that I do not believe Russia will use nuclear weapons. Russia has threatened to use what I call strategic nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't believe they'll do that either. Because one thing I don't believe, while I have no trust whatsoever in Putin and the Russian generals, I don't believe they're suicidal. And should they embark on a nuclear weaponry conflict, then they are committing suicide. I want to go back a little bit to something that we're talking about in terms of Iran's capability. And it dovetails somewhat into Iran's sovereignty. Developing nuclear weapon-grade uranium may not have triggered a response, an urgent response to Iran. And I reference what we saw happen in North Korea. North Korea, we knew, had been developing the weapons and testing them, some successfully. But what has triggered major concern is the development of missile technology, the delivery systems to deliver the nuclear weapon. And so far we know, and of course we can only tell from what is reported, because we don't have our own independent intelligence sources. But Iran is developing very capable missile delivery systems for any nuclear weapon that they may develop down the road. We've seen, you mentioned the proxies earlier in your conversation, that which surround, no, I think it was Reverend Edwards who did,
Yes.
that surround Israel. And we saw the missiles. Granted, these are not long-range missiles that they've been using against Israel, whether it's from Hamas in Lebanon or the Houthis in Yemen. And those missiles may not be capable at this point to deliver even a small nuclear warhead. But that cannot be ruled out for the future as long as Iran is allowed to develop the missile technology to complement its nuclear weaponry technology.
Yes.
No, I am not justifying one way or the other whether Israel had the right to do this. Some time ago, I wrote an article in which I mentioned that the only thing holding back Israel is President Trump's attempt, which now seems to be a failure, but anything can happen in geopolitics overnight.
Yeah, hearing you loud and clear, Ambassador.
Yeah.
Yep.
The failure to get his own Iran nuclear deal, which was actually imitating what he abrogated in 2018.
Yeah. Reverend Edwards, your take on this whole matter.
Yes.
It doesn't Iran have the right to develop its own nuclear facilities?
If it was a situation where they weren't so clearly anti-Israel in existence, in other words, if as a leadership you hold a philosophy that the Holocaust was a man-made, it's not true. It's a story. And if you say the Jewish nation should not exist, maybe you would be considered, in simple language, less hostile and not developing this weaponry for expressly violent war fighting, political philosophy advancing purpose. Maybe.
But I'm wondering, Reverend Edwards, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Reverend Edwards, I'm just wondering before you continue, if you would allow me, why would a nation have nuclear weaponry then? Because isn't it about war? Isn't it about serving as a?
No, we've seen people use nuclear energy for electricity generation purposes and whatever else.
No man, these are we're talking about. These specific warheads and all that these other nations have that have
Yes.
nuclear. Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, all of them have
but
the same
again,
purpose. That a deterrent.
Is a deterrent. They didn't come out saying that we want this so we can blow this nation out into the sea. You normally do it in, we call it, exercising your sovereignty and looking about wider national development efforts.
And Iran should not have that opportunity.
As about to say, give an expressed animosity to a particular nation, especially one that the world feels guilty about how they were treated coming out of World War II, there is a particular sensitivity to Israel among those European nations, among or in American government circles, so that you have already gone against the grain, whether of people's conscience or their morals that say you can't develop because you have the intention of wiping out somebody else. So I suspect Iran is up against that kind of opposition. And we know, let's not go around the bush. There is a thing that the US is going, because of the influence of the Jews in American life and in European life, Western European life. You're going to approach the subject with the handbrakes up. So there are countries now, even in the Middle East, Arab countries, that would be reluctant to hear that the Iranians have nuclear weaponry capability.
Yes.
So in a sense, while you hear talk of de-escalation, there are some people who are hoping a setback that will bring some kind of stability and one thing less to worry about.
As you mentioned, stability then, Reverend Edwards, what are there any solutions? What are the possible solutions going forward? Begin with you, Reverend Edwards.
Solutions.
Yeah. I use that word guardedly.
I wish I could speak to I know. I wish I could speak with certainty about the heart of man. I would ask the question, if the Iranian intent was purely peaceful and sustainable development and self-sufficiency and all the other things, sovereignty and whatnot that we talk about, it has taken them quite a bit of investment to be able to build the fortifications that they have underground around their nuclear facilities. Call it naivety, but everybody else builds theirs where you can see them.
No solutions then, Reverend Edwards? No.
I am not going to venture a solution at this
okay,
point.
Here. Let me just bring it back. Yeah, let me just bring it back, Ambassador. We're up on the close of this segment. Ambassador, quick thought.
Well, number one, Iran has stepped away from the provisions of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, as did North Korea, and we saw where North Korea ended up. Now, Iran can submit back to the inspections by the International Energy Atomic Agency, which is a UN agency, which can certify beyond any doubt whether or not Iran is developing nuclear weapon technology. And that is what the JCPOA, the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, was able to accomplish. Once that was abrogated, the IAEA was refused access to the facilities dealing with nuclear technology, and Iran has moved quickly because they have the technology, they have the intellectual capacity to develop the weapons. But look, if Iran is allowed to gain nuclear weaponry, there's nothing to stop Saudi Arabia from doing the same thing.
Ambassador, I'm so sorry, sir. We're totally out of time. Want to thank you both for joining us, gentlemen. Interesting, insightful discussion. Have a safe and productive day, please.
Thank you.
Listener, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
We take bang
anything possible with a little savings in your hand.
Now the time by Gen Bank is
7:30.
Don't let freshness ditch you when you need it the most. Wash your clothes with Downy Softener to keep dazzling everyone around you from day to night. Try Downy Softener now.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Always a good move when you're moving with Grace.
The Portmore Resilience Park is now 50% complete. And it is set to be open this summer.
Residents of Portmore will have an area that is accessible by all, with walking trails, green spaces, and lots more.
Portmore for sure. I never know that the Dust Bowl could have go through such a transformation. This is a government that cares about its people, where we work, and where we live.
Brought to you by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
The name you trust to be your friend, to be a partner by your side. For generations we have been the one you trust as your financial guide. Sagicor, building trust for generations, helping hopes and dreams to grow, building our nation. Sagicor's the name you know. Sagicor.
Sagicor, celebrating 55 years.
Building trust for generations.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing in the Gleaner. Over 4,000 pounds of ganja seized in St. Thomas, and a man has been arrested in that regard. Also in the Gleaner, TAJ collects over 18.6 billion, that's with a B, on the tax arrears settlement program. Also in the Gleaner, JTA presidential candidate says inequities in education system must first be fixed, and performance-based pay for teachers must be rubbished. And then finally in Loop News, Maurice Dixon to primary schools. She says, take ownership of literacy outcomes too. And also in Loop News, Mackenzie and Sav Mayor squabbling over delayed Negril fruit vegetable market project. Yeah, those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll share some of the feedback from our social media question: what would be a more useful word than opposition for the political party not in power? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
The Youth Summer Employment Program YSEP, an initiative of the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, will employ 10,000 youth this summer. YSEP is providing our youth with employment opportunities in critical areas associated with the ministry and its diverse portfolio entities. Join Love 101 FM for a live outside broadcast of the Youth Summer Employment Program launch on Tuesday, June 17 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Hear highlights on the benefits, purpose, and structure of YSEP from special guest speaker, Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and Portfolio Minister, the Honorable Desmond McKenzie. That's a live broadcast on Tuesday, June 17, 2025 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. live from Jamaica Conference Center, Port Royal Street, downtown Kingston. The highlights will be on the family station, Love 101.
On the next Campus Connection, we will be taking another trip overseas for Jamaicans across the globe, Part 2. Jamaicans, both young and old, have made significant contributions to various fields, and their cultural influence continues to grow and inspire people worldwide. You are invited to join the conversation with Patrice Clayton, UWI graduate and public sector worker who was recently in Trinidad, Dr. Cedric Leslie, Columbus in Ohio, USA, and Daisha Mills, veterinarian student studying in Lithuania. You don't want to miss our honorable guest, Aberdeen Thompson Tucker, teacher in the UK. That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, June 17 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station Love 101.
News are going on from campus. Come on, let me walk one. Campus connection, take another one down. Have to be a man, got to be a man.
On the next episode of The Mailbox, we'll be doing our post-Father's Day show. Father's Day was a special day to honor and celebrate fathers, father figures, and paternal bonds. How did you show gratitude to fathers in your life? How can we continue to celebrate their role and spend quality time doing what they like beyond Father's Day? You are invited to join the conversation with our guest pastor, Andrew Norman, co-founder, president of Passion and Purity, and Pastor Paul Morris, former missions and special projects coordinator of the New Testament Church of God in Jamaica. That's Wednesday, June 18 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station. Love 101. The Mailbox Monday.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Jokal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: what would be a more useful word than opposition for the political party not in power? Jokal.
All right, so we have some responses. This is Edna in Montego Bay. Let's hear from Edna.
Good morning, Morning Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listeners and staff. I can't think of another name for the opposition right now, because since both parties, they already have their real name, so they just call one that is not the ruling government opposition. And since their job is to oppose, I think the opposition is the right name for them.
All right, thank you, Edna. Cherry says another name to use for the opposition could be the other party, or the competing party, or the rivalry, or just refer to them by the name of the party.
All right. Thank you, ladies, for your responses. Their job is to oppose. All right. As we segue into the second watch, have you ever noticed that regardless of who makes up the opposition, once they are the opposition, they will oppose almost anything that is posed by the party in power? It makes one wonder, what was the original purpose of an opposition? Does the name opposition presuppose that you are or should oppose as much as possible the policies and actions of the party in power? Well, to share with us views on the matter, we have online so far Joseph Patterson, President of the United Independent Congress. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Toussaint. How are you?
I'm well, and you?
Fine, thank you, and really appreciate being on this morning to talk about this important topic with you.
Yes. Well, as we talk about it, let's see if we can, begin at the foundation. What is your understanding, Mr. Patterson? Read the history and the concept behind the use of the word opposition within a political context.
Well, the whole idea for parliamentary system really originated with the British. So we're a part of the Westminster system. And back in the days of the evolution of political parties in Britain, they had to identify what are they going to call those who are opposing the royals' government, because the government really was an extension of the royal family at one point. And so they decided to call them opposition because they would normally oppose the views of the sitting government. And then they became Her Royal Majesty's opposition and so on. Jamaica has chosen to adopt the Westminster system and by extension, developed on that tradition and maintained this idea of an opposition.
Yes. And of course, they would not mention the party in terms of the party name, but just say opposition.
Yeah,
Correct?
because prior to parties, they were really opposition individuals. The British system started out with, anybody that's not in the government can rise to oppose. Eventually, it became a partisan model, and then the leader of the party that forms the most, became the leader of the opposition. But it's really a very unfortunate development because it creates what you pointed to earlier on, where people just oppose for opposition's sake, as opposed to bringing solid arguments to the floor, alternative views to encourage better policies and a better outcome for the people of Jamaica. So we really want a system, I believe, that is more consensus building than merely opposing.
Yes. And of course, as we're talking about parties, my understanding is that Peter Toussaint, president of the National Democratic Movement, was invited, and we're having some difficulty connecting with him. So, Mr. Patterson, are you in favor of the designation opposition? Are you opposed to it?
I would prefer a very different system altogether. I think the system we have is too adversarial, and it encourages us to fight rather than find solution. It undermines actually getting things done because you really tribalize the nation and have us fighting against each other as opposed to fighting for each other. So I propose, and UIC proposes, a much different system, a congressional system where you have an executive branch, which then has to account to two other branches in the legislature. One would be an independent Senate elected by the people, and the other would be a House of Representatives elected also by the people, but using a 100% publicly funded campaign financing to make them independent. What you want is, right now in Jamaica, you don't have MPs representing their constituencies. You have them representing their parties. So you have two primary views in the House as opposed to hearing from the different constituencies. And that's why we have so many constituencies that are underdeveloped for lack of leadership and lack of true representation.
Yes. But even with that, why would you not be in favor of calling them the opposition?
Now, I don't think you need an opposition. What you need really is representation. So just imagine a board.
How do you refer to them before you go there, though? What would be the official designation?
I would refer, in a UIC model, you would not have an opposition leader. What you would have is an elected executive branch and representatives in the House who will then challenge that executive branch. So in a board, right, in a corporate setting, you don't have a management team and then you have an opposition in the board. Otherwise, the company would not perform effectively. And we've seen that in many countries that have tried to develop using this colonial idea. Countries who implement it after they are rich, after they have used other methods to acquire wealth. We're trying to use a system that cannot work to make Jamaica into a prosperous country. It has not worked for any. Singapore didn't use it. They modified it tremendously so that they could focus on building a consensus government and build their country. Jamaica and other countries that have tried this have continued to fail to fully realize our potential.
Interesting. I think we are up on a break. We're going to say more on this matter of the use of the word opposition and the concept. Is it still applicable to our political realities? We'll be right back.
The Youth Summer Employment Program YSEP, an initiative of the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, will employ 10,000 youth this summer. YSEP is providing our youth with employment opportunities in critical areas associated with the ministry and its diverse portfolio entities. Join Love 101 FM for a live outside broadcast of the Youth Summer Employment Program launch on Tuesday, June 17 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Hear highlights on the benefits, purpose, and structure of YSEP from special guest speaker, Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness and Portfolio Minister, the Honorable Desmond McKenzie. That's a live broadcast on Tuesday, June 17, 2025 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. live from Jamaica Conference Center, Port Royal Street, downtown Kingston. The highlights will be on the family station, Love 101.
Niagara's Good Move is
7:45.
Febreze. Imagine getting home after a long day and it smells so amazing that it makes you smile. Try Febreze Plugs, an air freshener that delivers continuous scent for up to 50 days when you plug it in low mode. Indulge in wonderful scents for weeks with Febreze.
Ready to experience 6 times more freshness in your clothes? Try Downy Scent Beads. Its fragrance is so amazing, you have to sniff it to believe it. Try Downy Scent Beads today. 6 times more freshness versus using detergent alone.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Save so you can make the par, travel par, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Me just never did I get through with no work, you know. And me did I get desperate. Till one day me see one ad, but them want somebody for work at a massage parlor. Trust me, the place was nothing like them advertised. From the very first day, I had to be giving much more than massages.
Verify the legitimacy of job advertisements with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. To report suspected cases of human trafficking, call the nearest police station 119 or 888 PROTECT. A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. In this, the second watch, we are asking, is opposition still a useful description for the other political parties? And in so doing, we have online Joseph Patterson, President of the United Independent Congress. And we are now joined, I am told, by Peter Toussaint, President of the National Democratic Movement. Welcome to you, Mr. Toussaint.
Good morning, Reverend Toussaint. Good morning, Mr. Patterson.
Good morning,
Morning,
Mr.
listeners.
Great. Good to have you with us. Yes, since you just joined us, Mr. Toussaint, your thoughts on the concept of the use of the word opposition. Are you in favor of that designation? If not, why not?
Well, thanks for asking. I'm not so sure if it's a matter of whether I like it or not. The truth of the matter is that the term opposition is commonly used in parliamentary democracies, really, particularly those of the Westminster system, you know, where the minority parties that do not form the government are referred to as the opposition parties. And in fact, there's actually a post that is recognized by the parliamentary system called the leader of the opposition. Is an office, and so in Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, India, South Africa, Jamaica, and the Commonwealth or former Commonwealth countries, the term is used. In presidential systems, they use the term for the most part minority party, or and the leaders would be called the minority leader. In more consensus type democracies like Switzerland, they refer to the party that doesn't form the government, the non-governing parties. So to me, it's really a matter of semantics. Although I do know there is a criticism that in our jurisdiction and in our culture, it is perhaps overused because it seems as if, if the practice by the two main political parties over the years is to oppose each other to the detriment of the nation. Because even when they are potentially good ideas, they still oppose, and that leads to contributing towards a burden of trust and other governance issues.
Yes. Interesting points, as well as what was said by Mr. Patterson. But if we were to even use minority party, that word minority also conveys a certain concept, doesn't it, Mr. Toussaint?
I would say so, because look, in every election, you you're going to have, I don't know if I want to use the word a winner and a loser, but you're going to have one that is chosen by the people and one that is not chosen. I want to say rejected. And the truth of the matter is that where you have multi-parties or two-party systems, and outside of a coalition, you're going to have a majority governing body and a minority body that forms the legislature or the governing body, the parliamentary system or whatever system of governance they have. So I guess we just have to be mature about how we treat with it and don't take everything literal. And it's for our leaders, the people who are elected, whether in a minority or a majority situation, for them to be more mature and civil in terms of their practices and procedures and how they treat with it, how they treat each other in the public view, and how they treat the people. So, instead of connotating these negative thoughts in people based on their literal actions, I believe if we behave a little more mature and civil in terms of how we treat with it, it would we probably would have a different view. But for a country that has practiced garrison politics for so long, and we have really tribalized our politics, and we have caused things to be seen in such an unfavorable light. So I think it's the quality leadership that we have had over the years by our political representatives that have caused us to really, feel this way, about these titles.
Yes. And for the record, Mr. Townsend, the president of the National Democratic Movement, it's neither here nor there for the movement. Is that what we are to understand? It's
in terms
semantics.
of these terminologies?
Yes, it's semantics. It's neither here nor there.
Well, based on
Just
the
want to be clear.
proposed constitution, based on the constitutional reforms that we had proposed, which was an executive um, um, republic, presidential system, we wouldn't have opposition. The term opposition leader, we'd have really a minority leader or some other term,
Okay, that's where you're going.
or
Okay, minority
or
leader.
non-governing parties or something.
Yeah, okay.
We are not for the business as usual Westminster model. We just don't think it is gonna serve us so well going forward. I mean, we have bastardized the Westminster system for the most part by the kind of ugly politics we have ingrained into it. Talking about in Jamaica, and so we really would want to see a change, a change of direction in terms of the system of governance which we now have. That we have, as I said, we have bastardized, and we have caused it to serve our people generally a lot less than it ought to.
Hearing you loud and clear, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Townsend has reminded us of some of the other designations used in other jurisdictions: minority party, non-governing parties. What's your view on that? Would you prefer those terminologies?
Well, the UIC has a very different view. We really prefer for us to
You're
think
sounding far than usual now, Mr. Patterson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying the UIC has a very different position. We want us to think outside the box. We don't want to constrain ourselves to the Westminster idea or even the idea of having an opposition. As I said before, we need to form a non-partisan constitutional republic, and the UIC has outlined how that would work without an opposition. What we have today is quite divisive, and as Mr. Townsend pointed out, and we have said before, it divides our people. We need something that will bring us together. So a system that brings us together is more appropriate. So for example, if you have an elected executive branch, which is the government, so they're elected by the people to run the government. The rest of us in the House are representatives.
I'm not hearing Mr. Patterson at all.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Patterson.
Yes,
you're sounding very, very low now.
I
not
don't
sure
know
what is
what
happening.
I'm not hearing him at all.
Yeah, Mr. Townsend is not hearing you at all.
Can you hear me? Because I have not changed anything from before.
Yeah, I am hearing you, but you are low,
Okay.
and Mr. Townsend is not hearing you. I'm not
Well,
sure what's going on.
I don't know.
Anyway,
what else to
continue.
do.
Well, as long as the
Yeah.
listeners are hearing, I hope the listeners are hearing, so that's fine.
Continue, Mr. Patterson. We'll try to work it out as we go along. Continue.
Right. So what I was saying is, the UIC proposes a non-partisan constitutional republic, which has an executive branch, which is the government of the day. The responsibility of the people who are elected otherwise are representatives, and they're there to represent the interest of their constituents and can speak to issue. and challenge issues and help the government to better formulate its policies. What we don't want to continue is this idea of two tribes consistently fighting each other. And then you hear the government, you listen to the government and opposition today, they're spending valuable time fighting each other as opposed to fighting for the interest of the Jamaican people. The UIC wants us to focus on unifying our people, liberating our people, and empowering our people. And that cannot be achieved in an adversarial atmosphere like what has been created under the Westminster system. In the past, what we have done is we've simply taken what they've given us, the colonial masters gave us, and we have tried to make it work for us. Why don't we try now to think outside of that box and just create something that is completely new and different, which is authentically Jamaican, where we express our desire for a government which is consensus-driven, that will allow us to actually tackle the real issues. People are struggling with their daily lives. They don't have time for the theatrics that we see in Parliament every day and the different jabs that we're taking at each other. What they want to see is a government that's focused on the issues, that's building and creating solutions, implementing them, of course, having an atmosphere to challenge that. Take China, for example. China doesn't follow the model that we follow. I'm not advocating for China's model, but clearly it is working for them. Why do we continue to follow the Western model, the Westminster model, that is not working for us?
What's China's model, Mr. Patterson, as you just mentioned?
China, as you know, does not have a partisan model, right? They don't have a partisan system. They're very different from us. They're very different from the West. What I'm saying is, whether it's China or Singapore,
is that communist regime?
Sorry,
into that communist regime there?
What I'm pointing out is that there are different ways of running government, whatever you call it. But we cannot continue. We have now followed one regime. We have now followed one regime for the last 80 years, and that regime has failed us. It's not working. Why do we continue to implement what is not working? Let us try something different. So the UIC proposes a non-partisan constitutional republic with three separate branches of government: the executive, the Senate, and the House. Right now, the Senate is a partisan appointment. Why not make that an elected body which truly represents the interest of each parish? Why not ensure we have a 100% publicly funded campaign financing system so that our MPs can speak freely and they're not being prevented from full participation by their party affiliation? So the UIC wants us to think outside the box and do something very, very different.
Okay, hearing it loud and clear. Mr. Townsend, did you hear anything at all?
I just heard the tail end. I had to turn another device on to
that
hear.
was what's causing the feedback. Okay.
Yeah, to listen on it because I'm not hearing anything from my phone. But I did hear the tail end from Mr. Patterson with regards to China. I'm not sure how much of a model is China that I would want to emulate, because China is a dictatorship, really. It's not a democracy. So I would rather live in a democracy, despite all the problems that comes with the democracy. I would rather freedom than the lack of it, And so I believe we just have to work with what we have. I agree with Mr. Patterson to some extent that, we need more democracy. And I heard him mention the Senate, which should be an elected body, and we fully agree. The NDM fully agrees, and that's in our proposal, that we have a Senate elected by the people. It's the highest decision-making body in terms of the parliament, in terms of the legislature. They pass all laws before it goes to the Governor General for assent. And yet, that body, which is not elected, they are political appointees by just two individuals, and they could rubbish any law that the people's elected representative pass in Parliament. So I agree in that regard. But I do believe that. Sorry.
Yes, we have to leave it there. Thanks so much for your comments on the matter, gentlemen. Have a safe, productive day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and same to you.
Right. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and the controversial issues. For information, how to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-959627. This has been The Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint, returning you to love in the morning.